reach the point when all of your believing becomes one single act of faith in God.
Everywhere can have education and culture for their minds, dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirit.
We need leaders who are more interested in people than in private ambition.
Hello and welcome to Wisdom for Rulership today. My name is Emmanuel Sam and I represent Seashore Leadership Initiative. Today, I would like us to initiate a discourse as has to do with the emancipation of a generation from the scourge of slavery. And so I'd like to speak from the book of Kings, which is the Holy Bible, what it takes to rule. It says in the book of Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 14, "Counsel is mine and sound wisdom. I am understanding, I have strength. By me kings reign and princes decree justice. By me princes rule and nobles, even all the judges of the earth." When we talk about rulership, when we talk about leadership, a lot of things come to mind. Within the context of the African culture, when we talk about leadership, people think about politics, people think about the academia, people think about the economy, running businesses. Most people think about church leadership, talking about pastors. Most people think about religious leadership in the other religion, the Islamic religion. We talk about the imams. People also think about traditional leadership, talking about traditional rulers and traditional belief systems. However, our leaders must begin to understand the fountain of wisdom. Wisdom finds expression on earth via ideologies. Wisdom expresses itself wrapped up in contents called ideologies or ideas. Now, what is an ideology, if we may ask? An ideology is an idea that has had so much people, a group of people, come into accepting it so that it becomes a belief. It begins to cultivate belief systems in people, begins to, establish philosophies and values as a result of these beliefs. And these beliefs sometimes can transition into becoming governing structures that rule over territories. And so an ideology is a very powerful concept. An ideology is the tool by which wisdom finds expression in the souls of men. And so when we begin to talk about ideologies, there are several ideologies we can look at. We have transgenerational ideologies. These are several variations. We have transgenerational ideologies. We have religious ideologies. We have traditional ideologies. We have sociocultural ideologies. We also have professional ideologies. Now, and several others, but these are top notch. These are at the helm of the ideological framework. And so when we begin to talk about ideologies, we begin to see that the warfare of nations, the warfare of systems, the warfare of territories is as a result of a clash of ideologies. Most ideologies are racial and they've had transgenerational impact. However, people can also thrive on the misinterpretation and the misrepresentation of ideologies in order to carry out selfish ambitions, in order to carry out clandestine agendas that are supposed to make a particular tribe, race, clan, system, people, or geopolitical environment gain the advantage over the other one. The quest for superiority did not begin today. Superiority is not a sin. The quest for superiority is not evil in itself. The quest for superiority is simply a perversion of an understanding of the concept of dominion. People think about dominion within the context of ruling over people by whatever means. Hence, the quest for individual superiority, territorial superiority, national superiority, continental superiority. All of these are perverted interpretations of some kind of leadership ideologies that have over time found expression in several continents all over the world. Hence all the warfares, hence the war of nations, hence the challenge as it has to do with human trust. You can see this warfare manifesting in diplomatic warfare, economic warfare. You see sabotage everywhere. You see treason. You see nations trying to break out of nations, sub-nations trying to break out of nations, even as it is in Nigeria right now with the Biafra trying to break out of Nigeria. All of this is because a particular tribe, a particular people, a particular race of some sort have thought that they are superior and so should be able to dictate the livelihood of a particular people, of a particular race, tribe, or clan, as the case may be. However, it is pertinent that nations begin to bring out true leaders who would understand how to chart the course for the righteous kind of rulership that the next generation needs to look up to. I think we have a challenge here. One of the critical challenges that we've had is that, especially in the political landscape, people have thought of rulership as a tool of oppression. People have not seen rulership as a concept for discipling the next generation. And as a result of this, we've had this consistent rollover of this ideology of the older generation oppressing the younger generation. Let's look at a typical African setting, for instance. A parent comes out of the myriad of challenges that plagues the African continent or the Nigerian community, the Nigerian state as it were. And when they come out of this kind of environment, they grow with a certain thought pattern. Their perspectives are skewed in a certain direction. As a result of this, they have this perception that their children, the younger generation, are supposed to model after them. They begin to believe that their experiences become the frame of reference as to how the younger generation should look at life. And so when the younger generation grows up, any thoughts or concept or perspective that is out of alignment with that which their parents have had, there begins to be a conflict of interest. There begins to be a conflict of parent-child relationship, because most of the time they believe that they have it all. And this is tied to the fact that most people have not understood the transgenerational nature of knowledge and wisdom. In every generation, a greater light from the Creator in terms of wisdom and knowledge is made manifest on the earth. And most times, what the parents knew as light, if they don't keep updated with the Creator and His standards and His blueprints, they become outdated. And they want to begin to superimpose these outdated curriculums over the younger generation. When the younger generation resists this old knowledge or archaic knowledge, it now becomes a battle. This spills over from the family unit into the political unit, into the academia, into the socio-economic unit of our society. I believe that a major challenge with Nigeria today is that the quality of leaders that we have, their knowledge concepts are outdated. I believe sincerely with all my heart that wisdom is lacking in the corridors of power, because I have met people who have genuine interest for the nation Nigeria and Africa at large, and I realize that many people, because they cannot touch the next layer of knowledge, the next layer of the dispensational blueprint established by the Creator for a generation, what they do is that they languish in self-imposed dogmas, and they tend to want to use financial and material acquisitions to set the template as to what success can be defined as. And so a generation of people who are lazy and who don't give themselves consistently to righteous research as to how to reclaim the lost heritage of nations, cities, and systems begin to key into that direction. And then most people who are in the younger generation begin to betray our generation to the ideologies of the past generations. These are all the challenges that we find in rulership and much more, which I'll be speaking about in our subsequent sessions. But I want to say this, that there is a generation that is rising that will not give itself to the whims and the caprices of the cucumber mentality at the expense of true righteous knowledge that is supposed to create a template of light founded on truth in order to foster socioeconomic development in all spheres of human endeavor. We are gradually moving into a stage where our parents may have to make up their minds. The older generation would have to make up their minds to either collaborate with the younger generation and see what the younger generation has to offer. If it is relevant, they begin to act as guides and see how they can reconcile knowledge and biases rather than outrightly throw away the baby with the bath water. Because our nations are yearning for true solution givers, and most of the people who have these solutions are in their raw state. All they need is a little bit of refinement, a little bit of encouragement. I also like to say, as a result of this imbalance in the dispensational blueprints of knowledge, what has happened is that there has been a transfer of insecurity in most cases from the older generation to the younger generation. When people grow in ignorance to a certain level and begin to realize that their formative years and their years of strength and adventure have been given to pleasure and ignorance, consciously or unconsciously, what happens is that there is a tendency to begin to create false systems and structures, a false sense of internal gratitude, defying the laws of the conscience in order to find a sense of belonging. And so most times we begin to create systems because we want crowds, we want people, we want accolades of men. And because we want these accolades, as men begin to come around us or around such kinds of environments, what happens is that they begin to think that because of the material acquisitions around individuals, corporations, or systems that embody this reality, that is a path to success. And so this misrepresentation and misconception, when they become institutionalized in the mind, we begin to have more conflicts of ideas in the mind because people don't know how to separate truth from falsehood, because the precedents that have been set for them most of the time are founded on falsehood meant to seek a sense of self-gratification. However, over the years, even a fool knows that it's time to begin to seek truth. Falsehood has become institutionalized over several nations of Africa and Nigeria, and leadership right now seems to be gradually being shortchanged for a survival orientation, a usurpation orientation. Now we have to change this. If we are going to live out the next 20 years, to 25 years, expecting that Africa is going to come into light, then we have to change the narrative. We have to come to the point where we begin to understand that we must give no more place to falsehood. We must begin to bury our insecurities and begin to seek for truth. We have to begin to bury our pre and post-colonial notions as to the definition of things, as to the definition of life, as to the definition of several units in society, the family unit, system, institutions. We need to recalibrate our thinking. We need to now go into constructive research in upgrading our mentality. The mind isn't enslaved because of what it has. The mind is enslaved because of how it has been programmed to interpret knowledge. The African mind needs to be recalibrated to begin to interpret knowledge differently. Knowledge content could be poisonous and could be beneficial. However, the mind, the machinery of the mind that interprets the knowledge content is what is going to be able to prove if the knowledge is actually right or wrong. You cannot know right if your mind isn't thinking right. You cannot know wrong except your mind is thinking right, and then you now understand that a particular knowledge that you're trying to take in is an antithesis of what you intend to achieve. It goes completely contrary to the direction of the future that you have planned for. And so right now it's important that we begin to shift our focus more and more from material acquisitions and rather begin to focus on how we can shape the climate, the socio-political, socio-economic, psychological, and even the physical template. We need to now begin to think of how we can restructure our knowledge concepts, knowledge conceptualizations, our thought concepts, our word concepts, our belief systems. We need to now begin to purge our minds of negative ideologies. We cannot change everything, but we can begin to change things one step at a time from wherever situation, wherever position we find ourselves for time. I like to say this. Our academic institutions need help. I have seen where people that we are supposed to look up to, genuine good people who have good intentions towards society, their minds have been corrupted by the kind of knowledge they've imbibed. In the words of one of my mentors, a professor in the University of Calabar, he says that we are simply solving the white man's problems. We have not begun to solve our own issues. For instance, climate change, they impose it on us. Green this, they impose it on us. Every concept the white man brings out, they impose it on Africa. Share a couple of dollars here and there, and all of our leaders begin to fight against themselves because they want to see how they can get. But I ask the question, what is a house of 500 million naira on Banana Island worth if that house can be destroyed by hoodlums? What is the guarantee that the security personnel that you carry all around in your vehicles to secure you, that one day they are not going to turn against you? What is the guarantee that the lavish cars you drive, one day there will not be laws that are going to ensure that we cannot fly in expatriates to come and fix our cars? When we refuse to develop our own economy, when we refuse to effectively and efficiently speak, act up, and then encourage human capacity and human potential development outside of the formal academic institutions, we endanger our lives, we lay up structures that have no foundations. And so African leaders in Nigeria must now begin to think about human capital development. We must now begin to encourage innovations. We must now begin to create brooding environments that will encourage creativity and sustainable development. We must now begin to encourage rural development such that we can now begin to see how we can bring industrialization with systems that will encourage consistent upgrades that can now help our local communities to begin to match. I know that we have a lot of great minds in Africa. I know that we have a lot of great minds in Nigeria. I mean, all you need to do is just go online and you'll discover that a lot of young people, and even the mature in Africa, they have great potentials inside of them. However, our environment do not accommodate their rulership potential to find expression outwardly. And so I'm speaking to leaders, I'm speaking to heads of corporations, I'm speaking to heads of institutions, as well as governing entities at whatever level. I'm also speaking to parents. It's high time we begin to ask ourselves questions in the secret. Were we born to be slaves to the Western world forever? Were we born to be slaves of the system forever? Were we born to just survive? Is it possible that we can thrive beyond orchestrations of evil? And so as I leave you with this, it's a rhetorical question that we must ask in the closet. And as we give ourselves answers to this genuinely, I believe that we are now going to be able to see how we can reshape our landscape. Do you have a dream? And is this dream coming to fruition? Are you consciously working towards seeing your dream come alive? There is nothing in life that can compensate for individual fulfillment. And individual fulfillment comes by encouraging that which is inside of you to come alive and see how it can become a support system to the generations that are coming up. Thank you very much. I hope this has given you something to ponder on. See you same time next week. God bless you.